Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever it is, wherever you are. Thank you very much for tuning back in to another one of these. Let's face it, judging by the title and whatnot and everything that's going down, I had to. I had to talk about it because it is a rare treat for somebody who reads people for whether it be a hobby or a career or interest or anything in between, right? For somebody that does that, it is a rare treat for something of this magnitude to happen, right? Something of this paradigm altering, hopefully, in this moment, right? I am, of course, talking about the assault. The assault that went on during the Oscars when Will Smith slaps Chris Rock. Right? Now, in terms of the whole impact and reasoning behind it and all of that kind of stuff, that's not really the place for this kind of material, you know. I will touch on it a little bit as part of the breakdown, of course. And unlike other React videos, this is a video that I've seen quite a lot today. I've seen quite a lot. So there's so right. So we'll get this. It would seem like that the justification for this is attempting to be split into two different camps. Those who think Will was so far out of line and out of order, and those that are wrong. And I think that's, for me, that's the only real way that you can dispute that, right? It's one of those things that you can't really ever justify, non-verbal communication or not. So to that, my voice is glitching out. Interesting. Okay. Well, there's very little I can do about that at this stage, and that's mostly because I have a number of other things in play at the minute. So if it puts you off listening, then I apologise, and if it doesn't, then great. If it resolves itself, then also great. Oh, never mind. It's fine now. Brilliant. Okay, that was a temporary problem that has arose. Like Jack Sparrow would say, problems arose, ensued, were overcome. So yeah, we're gonna have a look at the slap. We're gonna have a look at the details and see what we can see. See the precursors, the press to go into battle from Miss Pinkett Smith. That was, for my two pennies, undeniably there. Now there is a speculation as to whether this was real, speculation as to whether this was planned. It was set up in a skit. Well, we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a moment. Suffice it to say that for my two pennies, this was not a skit, nor was it planned. This was something that happened, and another celebrity is going to be getting away with something that they really shouldn't be, regardless of the motivations for it or not. That's how it looks is going to be happening. So let's do this.
You know who's got the hardest job tonight? Javier Bardem and his wife are both nominated. Now, if she loses,
now you think about it already, right? You can't get away from the situation in relation to people's body language like this, right? They are there for an award show, so it's supposed to be relaxation. It's supposed to be having an evening celebrating what good the movies have done, blah, 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 all of that kind of elitist nonsense. But when you look at the fact that they are all still on show, they are all still on TV, they are all still being showed the world over. So there is going to be masks aplenty, other than when you're enjoying a joke. This is why comedians, or those who are capable of comedic delivery of speech and the like, these are the people that are hired to compare. These are the people that are hired to fill in the downtime, as it were.
He can't win. He is praying that Will Smith wins. Like, please, Lord. Jada.
Now, see, what we've got there, right, is a freeze moment from Will Smith at that time. It's enjoying a joke, not because it's not directed at him, but it is the enjoyment factor that's coming along with those moments that the night is geared to be able to have. Right? You've got the relaxation, you've got the artisanal leg cross. He's relaxed, sitting back in his chair. Will Smith doesn't smile kind of straight-lipped. It's always half-cocked to one side when he's smiling anyway. Always. The nostrils are flaring as part of his deep intake of oxygen that he's doing at that moment, and this is the relaxation. So you could argue that because he has seen Chris Rock move over to him, because if you'll notice when I paused the video, he got the J out in Jada, so it's about to come into the line that starts it all. But this is that moment where we can have a marker to understand how Will is displaying, however minutely or however understated in that area is irrelevant, how he is displaying some kind of genuine contentment in these moments, right? It's done through releasing his thermodynamic build-up. Energy has to go somewhere, so he's releasing it in that area. Hands are coming back together. Over in those moments is a link towards the way he would feel anxiety, and that he would get cooler rather than hotter. So let's see where that goes to from there.
I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
Look at that. Look at that. Forget Jada for a second, but look at that. Enjoyment. It's taken up a notch from the previous moment. There is the bouncing that's taken up a notch in motion as well. The person sitting behind him is enjoying it as well. Everyone who isn't is Jada, right? Now that's not to discount the fact that she has alopecia, and if she feels I don't know what the right word is. She's been quite public about her difficulties with it and her attempts to cope in that area. So however that is summed up is fine, right? Those are the moments where a joke doesn't land. Those are the moments where a joke doesn't land. And if a comedian wasn't aware of that, then, you know, they wouldn't have been able to gain any kind of success in those areas. So this is as much about exploring the logical dynamic of the information that's being communicated to us as it is about understanding the non-verbally communicated elements there as well. So let's just take that back a few seconds and watch the smile. Right? Watch it again. Laughs, claps, leg doesn't change, right? It's not that much of a raucous laughter, but it's a step up from the Javier Bardem remark. It's a step further. So this is when the action is starting to move forwards, right? It's the action that's starting to grow. It's the growth of energy within you that you put towards an emotion, right? The closest likeness that I can give in terms of communicating the difference internally to pretty much most people, is because we all experience, you know, jokes differently, but it's almost a very quick onset. So in order to understand the slow burn bubble of emotional growth, we've all had these moments when we're sad, whatever it is, right? You know, it might start within the pit of your stomach, you go quite loose or whatever, or you can feel it start to bubble and build up towards, you know, your lacrimal glands, you're overplaying something that's in your head. And then you start to move, you start to try and do something to dissuade yourself from crying, and then it gets too much and you start to cry. Right? There is some kind of element that is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and there we go. Right? Good evening, Matthews Guga. Good evening to you, sir. I apologize if I butchered your name, but good evening all the same. So here we go. Right? We have that moment of genuine enjoyment. Now watch that compared to Jada's reaction at this moment. Let me back a little further. Eye roll. She didn't enjoy that. She didn't enjoy that one bit. Right? Now this is the point that I'm making in terms of why I'm not looking to talk about, you know, offense and things you shouldn't joke about and that whole minefield, right? Because this is a prime example of somebody taking offense, right? Choosing to take offense to that moment, right? You could make all of the arguments in the world in terms of what the joke was directed at, but if you're on the receiving end and you want to choose to be offended, absolutely fine, right? If like it's by no means the same category, but I had long hair for a great number of years, and I'm still quite sad about it falling out. Male pattern baldness is a thing, right? So when people make jokes about that, it's fine. My Adam's best man speech at my wedding was based on that the entire time, and you take it for what it's meant to be in those moments, right? He's in no way being defamatory because I no longer have hair anymore. There's no comparison to be able to do that. And again, look, the G.I. Jane remark, you're being compared to a beautiful, powerful, hard ass that stuck it to the male oppressors as part of that film. She got to utter the eponymous line, "Suck my dick." And coming from a woman in that area, that's a powerful statement. So this is a clear example, for my 2 pennies, of choosing to be offended, and it works in line with Jada's very obvious ego. Right? That's what it works in line with. Nobody can bring that down. So watch the kind of gears shift at that moment. Watch the times change.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Uh-oh.
Now there we go right away. Now look at that pose. Look at that pose. If this was set up, if it was, you'd be told that you're going to get slapped. You would be told that. Or some kind of whatever the direction was in that area. It is an evolutionary imperative for us to live as pain-free a life as possible, right? If you look at stunt men and women when they know they're about to be hit in the face with a chair or a car or something along those lines, and they are told to be able to take it, they still prepare in some way, right? If you were about to take something that you knew that was coming, you might put your more dominant side forward. You might lean into it first a little bit. You might show a little bit of tension in your arms. You might show a little bit of tension in the way that you're standing. None of that here. There's no tension relating to the expectancy of pain. There's none of that. Right? Because if you know you're about to be hit, regardless of the kind of motivation, whether that be, consenting adults doing whatever they do, behind their own doors, or whether it's part of a movie or part of a theater or a play fight or a skit or a gag or whatever it is, if you know that's about to happen, you respond in a way that is designed to make you, as a structure, deal with it as best you can. Right? Even boxers, fighters, UFC guys, all the same. All the same. This is the position of a person who has no idea what's about to happen other than something unpleasant, right? This is hands behind the back. This is a complete, it's referred to as ventral fronting. So it's basically the exposure of all of your major organs and things that matter most to your ability to go on living, right? We protect these in moments of fear. So he's taken a dutiful, respect-bound position as the supplicant in this moment, right? This is the way people are taught to stand by the members of, the courthouse and the like when they're on trial, when they're after standing in the box. You show your respect to the system at this time. So he knows at this moment that Will is walking towards him. Will is not happy. But he has no idea he's about to be smacked. Not a clue. Even there, right? The giggles, the bowing. Now, I could talk for days on the movements of the neck and the head. If you look at the position in terms of tilting relative to I mean, you could make arguments for 5, but there's really 4 main different ways that we tilt our heads as human beings in terms of a semantic approach. We go up, down, side, and side, this way. And there have been studies done around the world, right? I believe the gentleman's name was Darren Baker, and there was another lady whose name I can't pronounce. Because it ends in like an Owski or something like this in terms of perception in relation to the position of the chin, which is the position of the chin, whether it be up or down, in terms of tilting in that area, right? In that men who are trying to present themselves as more masculine and more domineering and more overbearing in this area will put their chin up, right? It's referred to in body language techniques as a chin jot, but rarely, if ever, will you see the chin jut forward so pronounced in that way. It is a lot like looking down your nose at somebody else, right? Because you're above their station. Whereas Chris Rock in this area has gone so far as to actually dip the shoulders, right? Dip the shoulders. This is a precursor to apologetic behavior. But he's still smiling. Still smiling. He doesn't know he's about to be smacked.
Oh, wow.
And again, you could make that argument there that smile on Will Smith's face is because it was a whole setup. That's where the kind of conspiracy theory came from, right? And we, the internet, might be adding fuel to the fire for, the media conglomeracies to be able to scapegoat this whole thing as a setup, right? It's a big might be, but as the outside entity in this area, we can only speculate. We don't know what is going on behind closed doors. We can only read their information and go with the kind of outcome that it is communicating to us after the fact. So he's smiling there, but watch Chris Rock's left arm after he gets smacked.
Oh, wow.
Shoving him away in that area. Smack, shove, get back, right? This is his reflexes coming into play. They are keeping back that personal bubble between them, right? Now, this isn't one of those things that is taught in acting school. You're not taught these kinds of reactive responses to anthropomorphize the behavior of pack animals when they're hunting. You're not taught that kind of stuff. It happens automatically. If you want somebody that's just done you harm away from you, you keep them away, right? If you've ever been in a fight and you're not prepared for it, or you haven't done any training, there's really only a couple of things that you do. You cover up and you hope to hell that it will be over soon, or you do your best to try and get them away. This is Chris Rock doing this. And look in this area. Drop back on the right foot, leaning away, disbelief on his face. Even from this area, you can still see this. You can still see these moments. Now, this is what leads to the outward communication in terms of Will Smith being lost at this time. Lost in a marriage family dynamic that has so many eyes on them that he doesn't know what to do with that. It is a weird case of heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's a weird case of that.
Wow.
But that there, watch the chin on the way past. Watch the chin on the way past when he holds his belt area. Watch the chin for this on the way past.
Wow.
As it comes around. Yeah, that's prime for one of those. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. Somebody much cooler than myself could probably pull that off. But here you go. So that's one of two things at this time, right? That's either a warning slap, or Will Smith isn't very physically capable at this time. He's not very physically capable at all. Can you imagine if Chris had said, "I'll be feeling that slap till August"? Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun. I had a thought on a kind of British, dry, sarcastic response after the fact, but I'll mention that when it comes up. But this is the moment where the kind of toxicity of his masculinity, and that's Will's perception in this moment, is rearing its head. Right? It's rearing its head at this time.
Wow. Wow.
Chin up, tightened, readjusting himself in this area. Extra on the movement. Now, I'm not sure if this is the right scientific word to describe it, but when he walks, normally, it is done so with a swagger. It is done so with a swagger. However, when he is in a heightened state or playing up, as he does, right, to kind of separate those entities, as we spoke about in the last video, from performance will versus genuine will, there is those moments where he heightens his normalcy in terms of his behavioral lexicon. That's what we see in terms of the strut away. This is the attempts to communicate the masculinity of shutting somebody else down. Now, there are those making the arguments that he's just defending his wife's honor. How? How's that defended his wife's honor? Right? We're exploring the logic of the moment, right? And if that's an argument that you want to make for the justification of this kind of non-verbal behavior, then there has to be reflections in terms of a benefit that she would have moving forwards. This is not going to happen. If you're going to go up on stage and slap a comedian for making a joke, you're in the wrong. There's no other way. There's no other way of communicating that to you, right? You can have conversations, ask him not to go there, express your concern behind closed doors, all of that. That's the way that real gentlemen would handle these kinds of things. That's how you defend your wife's honor. You don't do it by slapping somebody else. That's how the domestication of violence spreads, right? And I'm not making light of a very big topic, but if you're going to okay behavior like this, that's how it is, right? He's a grown man. Control yourself, Will. Absolutely. And this is why I understand why he's done that. I don't agree with it one bit, but I understand why he's done that. Because this is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. Everybody has been in his marriage, right? Everybody. Perhaps that should be a no pun intended when it's referred to as open marriage, right? But everybody has been in his marriage in terms of papers, talk show hosts, people casting opinions this way, that way. It's going to damage the dynamic. It is. It's going to damage the dynamic whatever way you look at it, right? And I maintain the fact that he does love his wife fiercely. She, whole can open worms everywhere kind of scenario. But this, I would be willing to. The only thing his marriage isn't open to is jokes. Absolutely, and that would be the right way of spinning it. But this was for my if I was called into a case and I had to present a file on the the legitimacy of the information that we've seen. This was generated at the behest of his wife at this moment, right? Whether this be a communicative nod, or are you going to let him talk to me like that, or whatever it is, one of these kinds of things. I don't know how the the particulars of that would have gone between the husband and wife in that scenario, but the projected difference from the giggles that he had at the initial joke that was genuinely higher than the Javier Bardem remark shows an escalation in contentment. There was no outward signs of masking at that moment. To go from that to this, that's the sign of somebody breaking. That's the sign of somebody snapping. Right? Again, what he's done is wrong. And if you think the opposite of that, you were wrong. Okay? Let's keep going. This is what it happened. Absolutely.
Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow, dude.
And again, look at that. Everyone around, in with it. In with it. This isn't a setup. This isn't a setup at all. But we've got the presentation of the chin again at this moment, leaning back, the additional flared nostrils, the intake of oxygen to try and quell this rage that's building at this time. Yeah, very weak and childish from Will. I completely agree with you. But let's keep it going.
Dude,
Yes.
it was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
And this falls back into those moments that I mentioned in the previous Will Smith video that we did when he is trying to utter people to stop going forwards, just to stop it. He keeps going on the same point, but he'll do it louder. Right, he'll do it louder, whether that be repeating the same words. We never, ever talked about anything, between each other. But these times, keep my wife's name, and it was bigger than before. It was the same content, but it was bigger than before. It is an old adage that a friend of mine who works in customer service. He's known as the kind of calm one at this moment. And if you've ever worked in any kind of customer service, you know that you get shouted at from time to time at these moments, right? And so when he's questioned about this type of thing in terms of how he's able to remain calm at these moments, he will always tell his fellow co-workers the same thing. Just because you say it louder doesn't make you any more right. The volume doesn't change anything. But this is where, almost the kind of dry Ricky Gervais retort popped into my head. Keep my wife's name out your mouth. If I were Chris in that moment, I'd be there going, Jada, I'm sorry. Jada, forgive me. Jada, that was insensitive. I'm sorry, Jada. See, just to see if he actually picked up on it. If he actually allowed you to use his wife's name in that area. But you can see those moments. It's a fortuitous pausing. But if we're looking for the anthropomorphized behavior of indicating the attempts at violence, the attempts at domineering, the attempts at the toxicity of his masculinity here, this would be likened to the kind of that a bull does just before they charge. At this time, nose flared, adrenaline high, chest pumping at the moment. You can only see it in the brief moments when he shifts at the back of the chair because of the way the light hits it.
Going to, okay?
There it is.
Okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
I don't know about the greatest night in the history of television. But then it goes on, and if you have seen his speech, you can get the full the full true colours of the egocentricity in this area. To apologise to the Academy and your fellow nominees, but not the person that you struck completely in the wrong. Apologising to the Academy, and he actually, I think he ended the speech, or it was to near the end of the speech, where he said, "I hope they allow me to come back." Right? If that doesn't show you where his interests are at this time, right? Is he truly defending his wife's honour if this verbal content is leaking out over where his priorities are at that time, or where his concerns are after the fact? No. No. And again, this comes back to, you would have to watch the speech to be able to understand the full emotional strain that he was under at that time. He actually remarks on that he's not crying for this, or he's not crying for that. This is that moment where he's experiencing such a heightened emotion from, obviously the joy of winning best actor, because I would imagine that's a pretty high honor for any actor to be able to get, right? But the kind of fallout after the fact, spectacle, spotlight, nothing's happened at this time, and he's got an award for slapping someone, and I can't reconcile those differences. But in terms of the body language that we are able to see, this is the full recourse of what we've seen. We've seen people that aren't prepared for the expectation of violence, people that are under the oppression of thousands of eyes at any one time for a number of months is going to add strain to your psychology, and it's going to snap, and this is how it snaps at that time, right? Underneath the progressive masculine response that he's being able to do with the clutch of the belt on the way past, the smile, the chin juts in this moment, there is an element of pride in that behavior, and how that's being communicated to other people is appalling for me. Is appalling, right? There are moments where your defense of your family would be required to be violent. A joke is not one of them. A joke is not one of them. This was handled abysmally, and if it were me, if I were Chris Rock, he's handling it with much more dignity than I would at this moment. But because I would be 100% pressing charges for that. And you go back to the speech, there was the moments of, when you're an actor, you're supposed to be able to take abuse and take this and take that. Right, there is the justification there in terms of the verbal reconciliation of him having to justify this to himself at this time, to try and place him higher still than Chris Rock at that moment, a guy who was doing his job, So that's my two pennies at this time. If you don't agree with my two pennies, that's you're right not to, because that's the thing of these moments. That's what makes us such a glorious human race to be a part of. If we all had the same opinion, it would be boring. But if you're going to justify violence in the face of this, however minute you think a slap in the face is, that is the seed from which poor behaviours grow. And for somebody as respected as he is, or was, I don't know how it's changed en masse, but for somebody who is as respected as him, that's poor. I think I've seen as well. There was a clip of him on Arsenio Hall. It must have been from the early 90s, judging from the quality of the cameras. I've no idea when Arsenio Hall was on the TV and when he wasn't, but it was his talk show and the like. And Will was making jokes about a guy in the corner with alopecia having to spend the entire time waxing his head. No recompense. The guy out of the audience didn't walk over and smack him. He took it for the joke that it was. Poor behaviour from you, Mr. Smith. Poor behavior. But if you got anything out of the educational properties that I hope this insight into body language and the behavior therein provided, then by all means, drop a comment when the video goes live and whatnot, because this is streaming to you now live actually. But I'm going to take it down, pretty it up, add some things to it, and it will actually go out properly on the channel tomorrow. But yeah, if you got anything out of this, then by all means, click the subscribe button and stick around for more. We do this kind of thing on a regular basis. And if you did disagree with me, that's totally fine too. Remember, that doesn't mean that I don't like you. It just means that we have a different opinion. Right? That just means that we have a different opinion. Fascinating to view from a body language perspective, but totally agree that Smith was bang out of order. Thank you for both points. Yeah, as do I. As do I. So yeah, guys, with that in mind, I'm going to love you and leave you. I hope you're all keeping safe and well out there, making smart decisions for those around you, and I'll talk to you all soon. Take care.